There's something wrong about silence in places built for prayer, because silence isn't peace. Not here. You've probably never heard of Sacred Heart Seminary, and that's not by accident. In fact, the people who built it would rather you forget it ever existed. But 8 men didn't forget. They were seminarians, priests in training, sons, brothers, believers. Between 1856 and 1862, all 8 of them vanished inside that building. No goodbyes, no graves, no proof they were ever seen again. The church gave it a name: Mission Reassignment. They stamped it, signed it, filed it under God. But nothing about those disappearances was holy. One of the boys, 19 years old, wrote a letter to his sister the night before he vanished. He said he could hear footsteps under his floor. Not rats, not pipes, footsteps. He wrote, "They tell us never to open the cellar door. They say the foundation is unstable, but I don't think it's the stone that's cracking. I think it's the lie." That letter was never sent. It was found hidden beneath a rotting hymnal in the chapel decades later, sealed in wax with a coin pressed into it. The coin had no face, just a hole in the center, polished smooth, like a finger had touched it every day for years. You need to understand something. Sacred Heart was supposed to be a place of light, a place where men gave their lives to serve something higher. But whatever those men were serving, it wasn't God. They discovered a tunnel under the altar during renovations. No one had ever mapped it. It went straight down, hand-chiseled stone, unmarked. No steps, just a rope. And at the bottom, not a room, not a crypt, but a slab, stained, scored, used. And here's what makes your stomach turn. Church records showed the seminary's leadership had changed 3 times in the 1850s. But historians now believe those men weren't priests at all. They were criminals, murderers, Irish grifters who killed the original clergy and slipped into their robes before the church could tell the difference. And once they took over, men stopped leaving, letters stopped arriving, and the prayers turned to screams. People think horror screams at you. But the worst kind? It whispers. It waits. It hides inside trusted names and stone walls. Places like Sacred Heart. After the 8th priest vanished in 1862, the seminary shut down quietly. No press, no ceremony, just locked doors and a statement that blamed the Civil War for declining enrollment. That was a lie. They weren't losing students. They were losing bodies. When workers came decades later to restore the building, make it a museum or a church again, they uncovered things they weren't meant to. I met one of them. Back in 2014. Name was Mike, carpenter, father of 3, Vietnam vet. Not the kind of man who scares easy. He told me he broke open a sealed crawl space behind the sacristy, found shoes, dozens of them, all mismatched, all small, dusty, old. But that wasn't the worst part. They found a wall, carved top to bottom, with Latin words, scratched by hand. No pattern, no grammar, just fragments. Domine, audi vocem meam. Lord, hear my voice, over and over and over again. The team stopped working the next day. 2 men refused to come back. One left Illinois entirely. No notice, just packed his truck and drove south. You want to know what scared them most? It wasn't the carvings. It was what they found behind the wall, a narrow corridor, cramped, claustrophobic. And at the end, a room. Low ceiling, no lights, bone dry. And in the center, a chair. A wooden chair bolted to the ground, leather straps nailed into the arms. Beneath it, dark stains in the shape of bare feet. That room wasn't for prayer. It was for silence. Enforced silence. The church called it a penitential chamber, but people don't weep blood in repentance, and they don't leave teeth marks on the walls. Here's what nobody talks about. The men who ran Sacred Heart? They didn't disappear when the seminary shut down. They just moved underground, literally. Tunnels run beneath that whole region, some natural, some man-made. But all of them lead away from Sacred Heart. And deeper into farmland, no one patrols. And if you listen closely, the locals say you can still hear voices beneath the fields, singing. Not hymns, something older, something hungrier. There's one part of the story I haven't told you yet, because it doesn't fit. It doesn't explain anything. It just makes the silence louder. One of them came back. Not right away. Not after a few months. 46 years later. In 1908, a man was found wandering barefoot along a tree line 15 miles from Sacred Heart. Thin, malnourished, dressed in tattered black cloth, priest robes, but not any modern cut. These were hand-sewn, the fabric brittle with age. He didn't speak for 3 days. When he finally did, his voice was cracked, like he hadn't used it in decades. All he said was, "They told me I'd only been gone a day." The sheriff at the time thought he was mad, some vagrant playing dress-up. But the local priest, Father Callahan, recognized the name the man gave. Brother Amon Doyle. Brother Doyle was one of the original 8 who'd vanished in 1862. And here he was, not aged a day past 30. Still young, still wearing the same garments, still whispering to someone no one else could see. The church took him. No police report, no hospital records. Just gone again. This time quietly, efficiently, like they'd planned for this. But Father Callahan kept notes. I've seen them. He wrote about Doyle's hands. The nails were filed flat, like he'd been scratching stone for a very, very long time. He spoke of the choir, said they lived under the earth, not above it, and that they only let you go if you promise to bring someone back in your place. And here's the part that still chills me. One night, weeks before he disappeared again, Doyle left a message, scratched into the wood of the chapel pew. 4 words, not Latin, not prayer. Just, "It follows the faithful." Then he vanished. Again, no record, no trail, only that message and a nail, driven into the floorboards, bent, rusted, fresh blood on the edge. You wanted to know the truth behind Sacred Heart? Here it is. The building didn't take them. Faith did. Their trust, their silence, their obedience. That's what fed it. That's what made it stronger. And every time someone like you hears this story and stays silent, you feed it too. So ask yourself, was it just a story? Or was this your invitation? Because now, it knows your name.